probably heard that love is a mystery and that finding the one God has chosen for you is not always easy. Well, that's not quite the case. The scriptures are filled with evidence that God can provide signs to guide you in your search for your soulmate, whether it's through confirmation in your spirit or an outright sign from God. God is more than capable of letting you know who that person is. Here are 5 things God will do when you find the one He has chosen for you. Number 1, He will give you the same spirit. When God brings you in contact with the person He has chosen for you, one of the first things He will do is bestow you both with the same spirit. He does this because when 2 people have the same spirit, they think and do things the same way. The 2 of you will feel like you have known each other for a long time, almost like a long-lost friend. Even without doing too much talking or introduction, you will both get along with each other without much resistance. Unlike the average relationship, which will give you a hard time figuring out a partner even after years of being together, that which comes from God will be totally different. This type of relationship can be seen several times in the Bible. For instance, when Adam first saw Eve, he instantly felt a sense of joy. Even though it was his first time meeting her, Adam felt they had been best friends. He felt a sense of peace within him. Likewise, in Genesis 24, when Rebekah was asked to meet Isaac, her husband, she felt a sense of peace and agreed to go. This is because God had already put a reassurance of peace and confirmation within each other's hearts. By giving you both the same spirit, He provides a foundational base on which you can both agree in terms of value. It also means that negotiations can happen quickly and harmoniously when decisions must be made, since both parties tend to think along the same line. When God brings you together with the matching spirit, even the most seemingly impossible obstacle can become insignificant. Number 2, He gives you one voice. When God blesses you with a companion, one of the things that He gifts you with is a unified voice. That is, both of you will have similar views and opinions without misinterpretation. Having one voice means that both parties understand what is being said and its underlying meaning. When God is not involved in a relationship, that language or one voice dissipates and conversation can quickly become littered with misunderstanding. For example, in Genesis 11:6, God says these people are of one language, and nothing they set out to do shall be impossible. Even though the reference above refers to a different context, we can clearly see that even God acknowledges that people remain stronger when they have a single voice. On the contrary, when God is not involved in a relationship, the devil becomes active interpreter of what you're discussing. This means when one party says something, the devil gives the other party a completely different interpretation of what was said. In the same Genesis 11:7, the Bible says to let us go down and confuse their language so that they do not understand one another's speech. This concept is also heavily used by the devil. By confusing your language, you both will hear each other wrong. In fact, you will hear what the other party never said or intended. But when God is behind a relationship, the Spirit of God regulates and interprets the real messages. And even when a wrong message is given, the Spirit of God will prevent or restrict the other party from taking what was said out of context. Instead of the devil twisting up your words and leading to assumptions and wrong interpretations, the communication is clear with no room for misinterpretation to cause doubt and confusion. Number 3, God does the work. Long before you meet that person God has already chosen for you, He already begins teaching them the basics of a good relationship so that you don't have to. When you finally meet your spouse, they will already know how to conduct themselves around you. Unlike ordinary couples who have to endure painful stages like correcting each other wrong, couples that God brings together have gone through divine training in advance and will save you the pain of teaching them right from wrong. This training saves you the stress of having to teach them every single thing about a good relationship. He teaches your spouse the basics of what behaviors are acceptable and those that are not without having to tell them. They'll know that cheating and unfaithfulness are wrong and that coming home late is irresponsible. This would come naturally to your spouse, and you wouldn't get frustrated trying to correct a grown-up adult. Even when they do make mistakes and you correct them, the spouse given to you by God will receive you and the correction gracefully. They will readily admit they're wrong. apologize and make up without it escalating. It is like living with somebody who understands you internally. Thanks to the training God's Spirit gives them, your spouse will automatically know that a husband should provide and take care of the family. On the other hand, a wife-to-be will know cooking for her home is natural. She will enjoy her role as a wife and will look forward, so putting it in her best interest. No party will see each other's tasks as a burden. This understanding will come to both parties naturally. This happens because while they dwell on their thoughts and worry, God is busy working in the background, connecting them through the little things they do for each other and creating faithful moments. Number 4, a natural flow. Relationships ordained by God are meant to be graceful, flowing instead of forcefully commanded. When God orchestrates a union between two people, it is often characterized by non-resistance and serenity, with no fits of frustration or anger over seemingly unnecessary disputes. Instead, mutual respect keeps both parties humble and grateful for each other. This natural flow of love brings out the best in both parties, prompting them to be better versions of themselves in every aspect of their connection. The woman, for instance, takes pleasure in preparing meals. The man in the relationship will not feel ashamed or embarrassed to help out in the kitchen or help his wife look after the kids at night when she is sleeping. Just as the woman will not feel the need to control or dominate the man, this type of relationship is a perfect symbiosis and joy that comes from being part of something so much bigger than either of you. No longer will there be arbitrary roles and expectations dutifully handed down from previous generations that define the parameters of a relationship. Instead, with God's blessing, both partners act not out of pressure and guilt, but with a place of understanding, compassion, and respect. When God brings both together, it will flow with harmony, not because it has been taught or learned, but because it is what it should be. Because even when life throws them curveballs, God will ensure that when He brings two people together, they work it out the right way. Number 5, most important, extreme tolerance. When God brings you the one He wants for you, extreme tolerance becomes a trademark of the relationship. Your partner will instinctively know when to look past your flaws and forgive gracefully. There won't be any bitterness or resentment that's harder than left to fester. Instead, it will almost immediately be released through grace and compassion. Your partner will accept your flaws and shortcomings just as you would do the same for your beloved. You will both understand that mistakes can and will be made at times, but these missteps will not be the reason for a wedge in the relationship or an excuse to push away from each other. The divinely blessed partner won't come to anger as things don't go their way, but instead will come from a place of understanding, contentment, and security. This sets your God-given relationship apart from others based on casual meetings or superficial attraction. Even when tolerance and forgiveness can become difficult, both parties are bound by shared knowledge that any disharmony between them is sinful in the eyes of God. Above all else, the biggest gift this soulmate of yours will bring is an unrivaled tolerance and acceptance that you both need and deserve in your relationship. So there you have it. If today's mathematics inspired you, show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. And for free counsel and blueprint for rebuilding your life, your marriage, your community, or your relationship, visit InfoRebuildTheCity.com. All our ministry materials are free to use and to share. Spreading the love of Christ is what we do. To give, visit our Facebook, our Instagram page, and be sure to rebuild the city. God bless.